Playback is a very tangible and controversial issue because that's what it is. But even the fact of going into a bird's habitat is an act of disturbance.
Yeah,
You
in a
know, so
way.
so so
Yeah.
if you really want to preserve the birds and not disturb them, it's like you could not go into the forest at all, and that would definitely assure that they would not be disturbed. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but then again, it's like, I guess we share this world as well. So it's kind of like, I guess, I think it's okay to track through the forest, so long as you're not, destroying and tampering with anything. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our brand new podcast, Two Birders, One Stone, a casual podcast where two like-minded birders come together and discuss all random topics bird-related and have a laugh along the way. So I'm joined with my fellow birder, Guillaume Durig.
That's right. Hey guys, I'm Guillaume, and I am joined by my great buddy Jack Morgan. This is a brand new podcast, and we've only just thought of the name maybe a minute ago, and I think it's going to be epic. So this is going to be kind of an informal, cool birding chat. We're going to chat about all things birding, and this is the very first episode, so it might be a bit clunky and it might be a bit chaotic, but we're going to get the hang of it. I think that with podcasts, I think podcasts get into their stride as they grow. So we'll see how it goes, eh?
Yeah. Oh, man. So, right, what do we want to talk about?
I don't know, man. Well, so I think we should establish for our listeners a few things. So, where do we come from? Where do we live? And how we got into birding. So, want to go first?
All right. So, I'm Jack Morgan. I am a birder along the mid-north coast. I've been birding seriously for about 4 years now, and I've always had a love for wildlife and nature in general.
Cool. Nice to meet you, Jack.
Nice to meet you too.
Well, we're very good mates. We met like how many months ago? 3 months, 4 months ago now? I don't remember.
Yeah, about that. I think it was sometime in October.
October, I
Maybe
think, yeah.
September, October.
Yeah. Well, suffice to say, my name is Guillaume Durig, and I was born in France. My mother is from England and my dad is from Switzerland, and I've moved around a little bit in my life, but I've ended up here on the Coffs Coast in Australia, and I live in Woolgoolga, which is a small town north of the city of Coffs Harbour. And so Jack lives in Nambucca, which is about an hour south from where I am. So we live in the same vicinity. So east coast of Australia. So make of that what you will. Australia's amazing for birds anyway. So I think we could start talking about that. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think makes Australia a great birding destination?
I think for Australia, like the amount of endemics we have, the amount of species found nowhere else in the world, I think that's like the birder or like tourist hotspot, to see all that exotic wildlife that we have here in our home, and like the emu, like what an iconic bird. And, I think that's really amazing to be in such a biodiverse region that has so much that we can like say, this is our own bird life.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, I think the sheer size of Australia means that you have, a corresponding amount of sheer difference in the ecosystems that you get. Like, for us on the Coffs Coast, we have this beautiful subtropical climate with amazing species, and if you travel inland, maybe how many, 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers, the bird life is just so different. And there's something to be said about that as well, like the differences in birds in specific parts of Australia.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just all desert. I mean, yeah, we have, lots of rainforest down the east coast. We have, in some places, we have even like, snowy mountains. And I think down around Victoria, some around there.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I actually lived in Cancoban, which I don't know if any listeners or viewers will know where that is, but it's near the Victorian border, and effectively, as you say, there's the Great Dividing Range, which is the eastern range of Australia, comes all the way down from the top of Australia, from Cape York, all the way down to down the east coast, and then in the south it gets higher up and colder as well. So yeah, it's just again speaks to the mega diversity of ecosystems as well, which admittedly is not a unique trait in Australia. Countries like China, for example, or the USA, or even Brazil,
South America.
yeah. Like you have, and that's the beautiful thing about birding. I think it's such a great hobby for everyone anywhere in the world. Firstly, because birds are everywhere in the world, and secondly, because people are everywhere in the world. So make of that what you will.
Oh, yeah, you're exactly right. Yeah.
So I think what we could do is maybe touch on the playback issue as our first episode. So what are your initial thoughts on playback?
So for me personally, I tend to not like to use playbook. Wow. Yeah. So for me personally, I kind of try to avoid playback just because I feel conscious of it too. I don't want to disturb or confuse them because like a lot of birds, especially like the passerines, have quite a diverse range of different calls. And so if you end up playing the wrong one, that could indicate like a rival male or something. And, you could actually scare off another bird from its, little habitat or like its little territory. So, you want to really be sure that you're playing a call that won't like make another bird feel threatened or scared or something, in case, yeah.
No, for sure. And yeah. And I think also something that's often overlooked is the fact that sometimes, our devices and our speakers and mobile phones, sometimes the volume of those devices is excessive. So, and excessive volume in bird calls illustrates, to a nearby bird that, this is a very strong male singing because it's loud. And I think that's also another problem too with playback because it's artificial at the end of the day. It's not natural. So there's lots of different sides to it. And lots of different things to discuss about playback. So you tend not to use it.
Yeah, tend not to. I mean, like I know a couple of times when we've been birding together, we've played, done a little bit of playback just to, I guess, try and draw it a little bit closer. But, then again, that's kind of like, you're unnaturally enticing a bird to like come to you, so, and I think that goes into another point as well is you have to be very conservative when you use it or how much you use it. So like, you can't play it back constantly. And then like, that could freak the bird out as well, So you want to, maybe play it once. And if it gets interested and comes in close, that's great. But then, don't go spamming it, and that could, scare it off. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do agree with your point that if you do use it, it's like use it in short bursts, and space it out and try to be very conservative, as you said, when using it. And I also think, I was going to say something. I think it's in the intro to the CSIRO's the Australian Bird Guide. There's a bit about that which is interesting to read. That especially with some nocturnal species like owls, if you use playback, they tend not to respond straight away. I think, and so
and it's like a delay. Like a natural kind of timing for their response. So
Exactly. There's so many factors, and it changes with each species. And I think if you're conservative and sensible and respectful, and conscious of yourself, and you know what you're doing, I think there's not too much, there aren't too many problems in using it conservatively, I would argue. But I know that there are some people who are completely against it, and some birders who think it's very bad indeed. I'm not too sure where I stand on that. I think, especially if it's for a more common bird that isn't threatened, critically endangered, I think it can be forgiven. You can be forgiven for short bursts just to try and see the bird. But then again, on the flip side, you do tend. I do find that you if you wait and you're patient, you get better views of the bird, because when you use playback, it's sort of like, oh, he's on a branch, he's 2 meters away, and then he's gone.
And then he goes again. Yeah. I think for me, like, I like, before I even kind of knew that playback was even possible, like that you could actually, kind of attract a bird via its own call. Like I'd be completely fine kind of just waiting it out. And, sometimes they would get closer, but, and then again, other times they'll just kind of go further back into the forest. So that's kind of just, luck, and you can't really dictate or control that, and I think that's something that, you probably don't want to overly do, to unnaturally dictate its direction or, what it wants to do, kind of thing. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure. And we've had birding experiences recently where it's like, you can almost scare a bird away if you use playback. And I think that's important to keep in mind too, and I also try not to use it, but sometimes you can't resist, I suppose. Just that short burst. And I'd be interested to, if on the off chance any professional conservationists or professional birders are listening to this or watching, let us know. Like, I'm interested in knowing more about that. Like, because I know it's an exact science, and it's a branch of conservation, isn't it? Like this, because I know they use playback for endangered species like the rufous scrubber, don't they? Or is it the noisy scrubbird? In WA, which one's in WA? I think it's the noisy scrubbird.
Yeah, the noisy. Yeah, noisy. Yeah.
I know that they use playback with that to monitor populations.
So at least to get an indicator that it's there. But then again, like, you have to, just be careful about, how much you're using it. But I think in that respect, like, it can be important to for monitoring. Yeah.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Yeah, it is kind of a controversial one, isn't it? And I just think it's interesting to explore it, and it ties into what we were talking about before in the Birding Today podcast episode that I did with Jack, about the digital age and how easily accessible all this information is, like calls, sounds, and not only that, but photos and videos and with the eBird app. So it's a whole new world, and you can't, birding 20, 30 years ago, you couldn't do playback. You couldn't, like, the average birder could not do playback, and now every birder can. So that's also changed the landscape a bit. I just think it's really interesting, and I do. You know what? Every time I use playback, it's like, I shouldn't be using playback. It's always in the back of my mind. It's like, oh, okay, one more. Like, it's really. I do feel guilt. When I use playback.
There is that guilt to it. Yeah. But like, as you were saying before, like, the amount of calls and like photos that are available now, it's like the birds are a lot more exposed than they once were, like, as well, like with like eBird and like their location as well, like, it's like, this bird was seen exactly here, and this is the audio and the photo of it, and it's like, all right, so it's like its privacy is kind of being a bit exposed there, and it could make it more vulnerable. And I know that's actually a thing with owls, I know for sure, where like they, it's recommended to try and keep reports of owls and their location or the tree they're roosting in kind of a secret or vague, just so that you don't get a flock of other birders coming along and then all pointing their cameras and like the flashes and everything, which actually would probably make the owl move away, and not come back because it kind of scares them as well. So and like for endangered species, you don't want to like do an alert for this exact location and then like hundreds of birders flock in, and then that could scare the bird as well. But I think for like twitchers, I think if you're sensible and you have like if you're an ethical birder and you're not trying to shove a camera in a rare bird's face or anything, I think it's quite okay. But you just have to be sure that you're not trying to scare off or harm or endanger the bird in any way or its home. Any thoughts on that, Guillaume?
Yeah, no, I mean, for sure. I was going to say, I really like your point about, birds' privacy being more exposed in this day and age with all the information we have on them and the locations and eBird and reports and alerts. You get an alert on your phone as soon as there's something that you need or that's rare in the area. That's a really good point, actually. And one could argue that in a country like Australia, it's like, all right, these birds could get disturbed by cameras and more people, but it's more serious in Southeast Asia, where some people actually look, I have this quite on good authority, actually, that some people keep an eye on bird reports so that they can go and kind of steal eggs and actually steal the birds for the pet trade, and to cage birds and trap them. I know that in Southeast Asia, that's a really big problem, actually, like the illegal trade of bird species, and the people that are doing that, the criminals who are doing that, I imagine are getting the information from platforms like eBird and rare bird reports. I don't really know, but it's just kind of interesting to point that out, because thankfully that doesn't really happen in Australia. Even though it is important what you said to be mindful and ethical, especially with owls, like you said, and nesting birds too. But it's a whole world, isn't it? It's definitely a whole world.
Yeah, I mean that was a really good point. I actually didn't even think about that, but yeah, like in some countries like South America as well, with the the macaws and other rare parrots that are dwindling in the wild, but are somehow really abundant in the pet trade. And it shows like we have to be really careful with how much we're publicizing these types of species, just so that these kinds of people who want to try and take them and sell them, like that, we don't let them in on it. We have to be careful. But yeah, I don't know if eBird or any other like bird website or app or anything is used by those kinds of people or not. But it's a very good point. So I'm very interested about it.
Yeah, you know what I think? I think eBird realized this a few years ago.
With sensitive species, and they don't list the date or time. I think not the location as well. I'm not too sure, but
I'm not too sure. I think for the sensitive species, they actually completely hide it from the public, I think.
Because I know it's like on the county or state or country illustrated checklist where they have the species, but it's got the little yellow marker saying sensitive. But I think, they do hide out some of the details, like date, time, location specifics. But
yeah, for sure. That's another interesting thing about birding, and the fact that there are controversial and ethical components to birding. It's not all fun and games, so to speak. Because it's important, as birders, we obviously love birds and we want to conserve them. And so how do you conserve birds? By making sure that they can remain in their natural habitat, by making sure that they're at peace. And of course, obviously, it depends on the species. You're not going to be worried about a brown thornbill, You know what I mean? So
yeah.
it, and that's not to say that you should go and raid a brown thornbill's nest either, but
Yeah.
it does have different levels of seriousness when you think about different species. Can you think about a species like that in Australia where it'd be flagged as sensitive?
Um, is it with the plains wanderer, perhaps, or maybe
Maybe.
some other like small kind of endemic species? I'm trying to think of any that might be. Yeah, because I know
Maybe.
there's a couple. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, the thing is with Australia, going back to the start when we were talking about Australia, like many of these kind of cryptic rare species live way out in the middle of nowhere anyway. So they can't really be disturbed by default because that's their habitat and because they're so far away
Yeah.
from humanity, which is beautiful. I love going out into the outback, and we've got to plan a trip to the inland, bro, because that would be
Oh,
epic.
yeah. No, that would be great. Yeah. Australia is so vast. I love how you can find those areas that are they seem like pretty much untouched, you know, and they're just left to roam, you know, freely without any interruption, which is really nice, you know, to think that there's still places out there that are, you know, undisturbed, and I think that's really good. I wish there were more, you know, I wish there were more places like that where you can go where no person is, you know, like driving, you know, huge bulldozers and tractors through and all that, you know, because I feel like that's kind of everywhere, you know, like all the talk about like the deforestation and pollution and other stuff. That's like a whole nother topic as well. But you know, yeah,
No, for sure. There's so much to talk about, and because birds are like are indicators of environmental health,
oh
and
yeah, for sure,
so that's what makes them so fascinating and so important. And yeah, there's so much to be said about that, and in Australia as well as worldwide, you know. And I think that again, talking about playback and using things like that, every little thing does have an effect, doesn't it?
yeah,
And though you might not think so, yeah, it's kind of like we're arguing for both sides here, which is good.
yeah,
Because on one side you could have the view that, you know, if you use playback respectively and not respectively, respectfully, and conservatively, then it's okay. But on the other end, you could say, yeah, but hang on, man. You know, every little thing you do has a ripple effect, and you know, who knows what it could have. You know, even with common species. But yeah, I just think playback's an interesting one because it's so it stirs a lot of people up. So it's clickbait for episode 1, isn't it?
yeah. But I mean, like talking about like the common species, and like the kind of comment about, you know, like I guess a common species doesn't. Well, I shouldn't say it doesn't have the same importance, but um, like you know how sensitive a species is, I think is the main thing to go for, even for like a common species. You know, if a common species can flush really easily, or it's really like dependent on a specific thing, or if there's a type of call or something that's really kind of important for that species to indicate something, you know, I think no matter how rare or common a species is, again, it's just that mindfulness, that you're not, like disturbing them in any really negative way. And, you know, I think it's just as important to conserve the common species as well, and not to let them dwindle either, you know. So, I guess the argument really is like, you know, just, yeah, whatever you do, like try and be ethical about anything you do, you know, birding or other nature exploration or anything like that, you know, like try and not disturb them. Yeah.
For sure. And you know, something just popped into my head as well is, you know, playback is a very tangible and controversial issue because that's what it is. But even the fact of going into a bird's habitat is an act of disturbance.
Yeah,
You
in a
know,
way.
so if you really want to preserve the birds and not disturb them, it's like you could not go into the forest at all, and that would definitely assure that they would not be disturbed. Do you see where I'm coming from?
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, but then again, it's like, I guess we share this world as well. So it's kind of like, I guess, I think it's okay to track through the forest, so long as you're not, destroying and tampering with anything, So I think, as part of this world, I think I guess, we have like equal access and opportunity to, to be able to explore and, appreciate the world. But, yeah, I guess as such a common and widespread species of as humans, as a whole, I think we really need to just be careful about how we're impacting other species and their ecosystems as well, because we kind of manufacture our own ecosystem in a way with our towns and cities, the urban environment. So I think, it's definitely just trying to give them the peace of mind, away from our kind of our influence and our impact.
Yeah, really interesting. Yeah, for sure. Oh, again, so much to talk about. We've been going for half an hour. How long should these be, do you reckon?
I mean, we can make them a bit shorter, or just like any length we want. I don't mind if we do. I probably don't want to do like more than an hour or something, because that might be a little bit long. But yeah, if we keep it like 30-40 minutes maybe, or around that could be really nice as well, kind of that nice round number that we were talking about before.
That's right, yeah. And again, listeners and viewers, let us know if you've had enough of us by this point, or if you'd appreciate 10 more minutes. I think it's important to keep the listenership in mind with podcasts. But yeah, I think yeah. Anyway, I reckon for this first episode, it's been a good first run. Let's end it now.
All right.
So, thanks for listening, everyone. And this has been Two Birders, One Stone, the birding podcast. So, thank you for being a part of the first episode. Anything else to add, Jack?
Not really. Of course, let us know what you think. I think we've raised a lot of really interesting conservation and, I guess with the playback, slightly controversial topics. So, if you have any knowledge, or if you're an expert in that area, please let us know. If we've got anything,
enlighten us.
Want to add on to anything, by all means, because we'd love to know. It would let us kind of develop as well as birders too. And I think sharing that kind of discussion, I think, is really good to make sure that we're all kind of more ethical birders in a way.
Yeah, that's a good place to end, I reckon. So. One last thing, we're gonna make the video version of the podcast available on our Coffs Coast Young Birders channel, I think. Do you reckon? Yeah.
Yeah, I reckon.
Cool, because that's kind of our thing as well, so it'll be kind of under one umbrella. And so if you want to write to us, you can do so. Probably for the moment, you can write to coffscoastyoungbirders@gmail.com. And don't forget to like our Coffs Coast Young Birders page as well. But I reckon we could, moving forward, have a specific page for Two Birders, One Stone. But that's all to come. And this is episode 1. So, guys, thanks for tuning in. And we'll see you next time.
Yep, it's been a pleasure.
Bye-bye.